Go as in we're live or go.
I'm live. I don't know about you.
I'm totally live. I'm so live.
Screw it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 17 of Conjured Refreshments. Mike's actually here for once. We got.
I'm not really here. It's just Mystic thinks I'm here. My voice in his head.
Well, returning guest who might as well eventually make him a permanent resident of Conjured Refreshments. Spamuri, aka Table.
Heyo.
For some reason, the victim came back.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm recovering still, but I'll get there.
Well, you're recovering. It's a good thing we have a healer with us because we have Zynthia with us today, guest.
Hello, everybody.
And with that, we'll do the intro. Or not.
Did you break something?
Something always breaks.
Yeah, that's why we always start late.
There. Like, adding something on the fly because, technology hates us. So, we have Zynthia with us today. Zen, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself? Introduce yourself, all that fun stuff.
All right, hey guys. So Zynthia is my World of Warcraft tag. So I started out in beta. I played a mage, and I didn't make it up to raiding gear because I was solo questing. Didn't work out. Came back in Wrath. Played an extensive amount in college. That's where I met Mystic here. Then I skipped two more expansions, and have played a significant amount of Draenor.
I'm sorry.
Whoops.
So, what do you do right now? You heal, right?
Yeah, I'm in Mystic's guild, the Regulators, and primary profession is healing with another paladin healer. So it's a little bit tricky sometimes, but I've always been a healer, and that's what we do.
And when I first met you, I think you were a healer, weren't you?
Well,
Yeah.
my now wife that I met in the game, I was actually DPS before I met her, and she thought she had open room for a healer in her 10-man raid, so I decided, what the hell, I think she's kind of hot to talk to, so let's try it out, and I haven't turned back since.
Well, the funny thing is, whenever I first met you guys, it was a pug group for ICC, and I think it was like the first pug group I ever led. We were on Death Whisper, and after the second wipe, she's just started hammering me with whispers.
The second wife. What's going on in our raids?
Again, it wasn't even our raid. It was a pug I threw together.
What's going on in your pugs?
Yeah, that was a questionable experience for sure.
Supposed to raid with them, not marry them, Misty.
Isn't it one of the achievements?
Marry your pug group.
Ah ha ha ha.
That's one way for a WoW player to get a relationship.
Well, actually, thinking about it now, on the podcast right now, 2 people met their significant other on WoW, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe that actually should be an achievement in the game.
Two people does not a trend make, though.
Well, in this room, statistics say 50%.
There you go.
I don't think this is a large enough group to count as a control group or whatever terminology
Well,
they...
if you actually think about it, Mike, with the sub losses, our 50% keeps growing.
I'm actually terrified of that. That sounds scary.
If we're the 50% of WoW, then WoW is doomed.
Well, no, we got a tank, a healer, a melee DPS, and a ranged DPS.
Baby aggro and wife aggro.
So, what have you been up to lately, Table?
Nothing really too much. Been trying out a few new games. Tried out Battlefront. That's been pretty fun. Um, I think I'm gonna have to change up my goals in WoW until Legion comes out because everything's kind of getting old, stale until they come out with something. Um, as far as Legion, it sounds like we're just gonna have about the same amount of time in between because of how early they announced it, and it's not even alpha yet. So we'll hear about that later.
Mm-hmm. Mike, what have you been up to?
Work, lots and lots of work. Learned a new forklift, so that was fun.
Ooh, what kind of forklift?
A reach truck. You
You
have to
stand in
learn
it, or
how
do you
to perpetually drive backwards.
What's the brand? What's the brand of the forklift?
I can't even remember. I don't pay attention to that stuff. And last night I played Slender, so
It's forklift. You stand up in it.
yeah, all forklifts that at where I work stand up in. So
Cool.
but played Slender last night and got stuck on a part, so I'm gonna have to cut some video.
I love when that happens.
I got stuck on a part, and then there's this whole part of dead silence. So now I gotta find that in the video, cut it out, do a jump, skip. I may even just skip a whole bunch of stuff because the game starts so slow that you don't get to the meat of the game till way later. So I'm probably gonna cut quite a bit. But I uploaded the first video, so
Nice.
Next week, if there's a giant jump between this video I just uploaded and next week's video, then you'll know why. If you watch the podcast, you'll know why. Otherwise, you're out of loop.
There you go.
I'll explain it. I'll put it on Twitter or something. But yeah, I started
on Twitter.
that kicks off me playing my scary games this month. So
You're playing scary games, and Table and myself are playing a quest for boobs. So
Yeah, there was that.
well, it's October. I got to play my scary games that I purchased during the Steam sale.
I don't know. I personally, I rather do a quest for boobs than a quest to try to be scared by a game. That's just me.
I did slightly jump at one point, so
I kind of like scary games. It's
wasn't even like a full-on jump scares.
Yeah, those jump scares are pretty cheap though. I like the games that actually like slowly anticipate you what you're gonna do, or if a scary moment's coming up or not. Silent Hill is pretty good at that.
So the rest of the month I've got Outlast, Spookies, whatever, and stuff like that coming out. So for people that like scary games, go to my channel.
There you go. People who like boobs, come to my channel.
I even got Five Nights at Freddy's. Not the new one, but got the other one.
And Zen, what have you been up to this past 2 weeks?
I've been working a lot as well. I got two young kids under 2, so it makes gaming a little bit tricky, but it actually makes all the more meaning to the games that I choose to spend time with. I've been playing a lot of the new Dota Reborn, the custom games with that, since that's been working really well. I tried out a couple missions for Legacy of the Void, since I pre-ordered that, and I haven't touched it since. And I also have started playing Gauntlet on Steam, because it was cheap, and it's really fun.
What's this Gauntlet game about?
So it's a throwback to the arcade version where you have 4 classes without DLC. You have a warrior, a wizard, an elf, and a Valkyrie, where they have different pros and cons with each, and it's just there's tons of monsters, different rooms, secrets, and it's actually hard on normal difficulty if you don't have a coordinated group, which me, Table, and my wife were struggling with that the other night.
Oh, it was fun though.
I have definitely jumped into it afterwards to try out some of the other characters, since I tried the Valkyrie, and the Valkyrie's primary strength is shielding, and I wasn't using it because I just wanted to kill things, and that didn't work out so well.
Well, next time you guys play a game, send me a text. I'm pretty sure I can make a video out of that.
Sounds good. It is. I really like the challenging nature of it. I actually jumped into there's a couple different functions that you have, where you have the regular campaign, and you're always continuously getting gold to upgrade yourself. But once you have someone that's upgraded, you can go to this endless function, where it's floor after floor, kind of like a survivor or like a zombie mode, where mobs just continually getting more challenging, different mechanics for rooms that you don't know until you get in there and you die.
That's really cool. So, anything else anybody wants to share before we jump into our topics?
Not really.
I got an itch.
Just that I roped Mystic into playing a game with me later. So.
Yeah, because I don't have to pay for anything, so
Just be a fun treat for everyone.
I think I want to be like the second game that we've done together that I didn't do a video on.
Huh.
I just let it go on your channel.
I do that for
Alright.
Minecraft.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we can do that again.
Yeah.
And Terraria.
My wife's wanting to do those too. So
Good, because well, we gonna have wife join us in Terraria, or we're just gonna have her keep doing in Minecraft?
probably just keep doing Minecraft since we
Okay.
have our own Terraria thing.
There you go.
Um,
All right. So our first topic is something that Mike added to the doc. So take it away, Mike.
at BlizzCon, they are going to have an engineering panel that's going to be all coders. So they put up a tweet. If you have coding questions, you can ask. So I thought that was cool. Questions about the behind the scenes nonsense. Like how much code is dedicated to breaking Mystic's computer.
Well, that won't be that hard because of Blizzard being Blizzard. So
Another one question I want to ask though. Why are all Blizzard games not optimized for any PC ever?
what do you mean?
It plays horribly on pretty much anything you put it on compared to other games.
You can run WoW on a toaster oven. Come on.
Yeah, but it doesn't
Yeah.
run well on a supercomputer.
It's true. The I don't know the scale that you go through from having like a really crappy $200 computer to having like a $4,000 computer. You should have like a higher frame jump up when you spend more money, but I mean for
With
every
WoW, you don't.
yeah, like for every every like 5 frames you should be getting, you get 1. So it's not like a good scale on that.
Yeah, it plays fine on a toaster, but when you try and play it on an actual computer, it plays like it's on a toaster.
I only get on World of Warcraft 90 to 100 frames per second, but I play a game like WildStar, for example. I was in like 120 and above on ultra settings.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know if WildStar takes advantage of SLI.
It probably doesn't, knowing them.
I can
Final
test
Fan-
it.
Final
Someone did
Fantasy
submit
or Realm Reborn does.
Someone did submit a question on this Twitter thing that asks whether they're going to implement DirectX 12 or not. I'm interested to hear the answer to that one.
Well, it'll definitely make it smoother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really need to, but knowing them, they'll be going DirectX 12 when DirectX 13 is coming out.
I actually found it. You plan on transitioning to DX12 for your games, and when?
And that's something I'd really like to know. but knowing them, it's probably just, oh, when DirectX 13 comes out, we'll be DirectX 12 compatible. But you'll have to toggle it in a certain way, just like you did for DirectX 11 when that came out,
Right?
until we finally put something in game for you to select it.
Open up a command prompt, do this, do that. There are stuff like how they've said for a long time they can't recode the normal backpack you get when you first start.
Yeah, stuff like that. Well, I'm interested to see if they actually answer during BlizzCon. I am getting a virtual ticket this year, so I will be watching, guys. If you're watching this, Blizzard, I will be watching you. I will have my eyes on you, Blizzard.
Jen, any thoughts on the engineering panel?
With my background in chemical engineering, I don't know a significant amount of coding, so no.
But you don't code the chemicals?
I did have to take MATLAB coding, so I was able to build a theoretical styrene plant on the computer using software, but besides that's where my limiting goes. If the code works, that's good enough for me. You guys can argue about the finer details.
Yeah, there's not really much to cover with an engineering panel. I mean, nobody wants to know how many ones and how many zeros are in the game. And I mean, it's more or less, if you want to know if they're cleaning up their code or if they're going to improve it, it's not really going to have an effect on us. We want to know mechanics in the game. We want to know
how many lines of code.
Yeah, right?
Actually,
how important is this?
I am actually kind of curious. I'm kind of curious of how much code they actually just comment out without actually removing for the just in case scenario.
Yeah. So if I was a coder at that panel, I'd just be like, a lot. Next question. Yeah. How much code do you have, and how much of it is commented out? Next question.
Yeah, we're going to be getting a lot of
if I was a Blizzard coder, if I was a Blizzard coder, I would not want to have to answer those questions because it'd be embarrassing.
Other stuff I would find interesting to ask would be how much time and coding would it take to add, say, a tabard bank slot for put all your tabards in, stuff like that.
Or a dance studio.
Yeah, there's that.
No, I agree with that, Mystic. That would be interesting just to get a frame for the smaller things. So when you're having multiple tickets sent to them, not like you would do something like that, you can get a real timeline of how long it would take to fix something.
Yeah. Perfect thing, like comparing a selfie cam coding to adding another slot to the voice storage. What's the amount of coding time involved? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'd like fundamental stuff.
It's like their opportunity to finally, like they've been preaching for so long. It's harder than you guys think to do this. It's harder than you guys think to do that. So it's their opportunity to actually give us a frame of reference and like, oh yeah, it actually is kind of hard.
Yeah, if people want to know how hard the coding is, what they should have is a spreadsheet that just slowly scrolls through everything of coding. Because it won't end by the time the panel's done. We wouldn't even be like a tenth of the way.
Oh, no.
They walk out to the engineering panel, and they're holding like this huge, gigantic book, and they just slam it down on the table. It's like, this is what we're working with. Like they actually took time to print out the entire code and just slam it on the table. It's like a mile high.
And this is just a tech geek from me. I'd also like to know how much of their code is actually hard-coded pointing to server X or database Y, opposed to being a free-floating, being able to change stuff out on the fly if something happens.
Yeah.
I guess I just nerd like that.
I'd want to know things more like how directly they work with the art department, because when they have like how fast your character runs versus how much ground you actually cover, or how your character moves with the speed and the mounts with it, like how closely do they have to work with the art department just to make sure that the movement speed is correct with the actual movement, so it doesn't look like a character's sliding around, if they have to adjust that or if the art department does.
I would venture to think that it's them, because the art department will make the overall skin, but they're the one that's attached to the frame, and they control how that frame moves. But yeah, that'd be a good question. Anything else on the engineering panel?
Nope.
Nope.
It's not for me.
Nope. I think that BlizzCon's covered.
So, Table, you're the first person to bring this up to me. Why don't you take over the BlizzCon 2015 schedule? It's not officially announced yet, but this is what it's going to look like, probably.
Yeah, so we got some slots in for a certain amount of Blizzard games, and we got Overwatch also. So that took a couple slots for other games, and since we have 2 expansions coming out, one of them is actually the month of BlizzCon, and then there's Legion. There's really not too much to cover in that, except for Legion. Diablo 3 kind of got screwed over. We only have 1 panel for that, but we have 4 for WoW, which is the most. And for Hearthstone, we got 2. We got to go over Legion and the content overview. If we got like a panel for 2.5 hours, or no, it's an hour and a half. If we got a panel for an hour and a half, they're gonna be doing a lot more than Gamescom, so they're gonna be releasing all this information, and I'm gonna be a little skeptical on whether or not this content is actually gonna be coming out, or if they're gonna scrap it, because Blizzard's pretty known for extensive work on things that they already know they're gonna cut. So
I would like to think that after the debacle that is Warlords, they learned to, and I think they've said it before on tweets and whatnot, to only release and announce content that they know is going to be in the game.
Yeah, they said for BlizzCon the best is yet to come for Legion, apparently. So we'll see how that goes.
yeah.
Again, I'll be watching Blizzard.
And if you bring that dance studio up again, there's gonna be hell to pay on your forums. Just saying.
If you what?
If they bring up that dance studio again.
Oh.
We finally got it in the game. Come Legion, it's not in the game.
Right? We're gonna have it in the Garrison. It even says it on the Lich King box. But nope.
Yeah.
Well, the Lich King box also said aerial combat, and we didn't have that.
I
don't
say we
know,
just
but I
make
can
it
jump
into
off
a,
my mountain and hit people.
I think we just make it into a meme now. Just dance studio. Somehow we make it into a meme of some kind.
Honestly, that hour and a half for the content overview, I'm not sure it's going to be enough to feed the players.
Well, it's going to be a broad thing, because then we get to Road of Legion, which is just going to be the cinematic, and they're talking about the cinematic. Maybe we'll see the whole thing. And then
an hour for the cinematic. Holy shit!
Yeah, they did that last year too.
Did they?
But,
Okay.
Maybe it was a year before. I don't know. It was something. But we have the game system, which would be mostly about the mechanics in the game. Their artifact, swords, weapons, I don't know, whatever, those things. And how I guess the storyline and the quest stuff isn't really going to be covered in this. It's all going to be like game mechanics, unless they put it in the overview, because it just looks like cinematic gameplay questions and answers. But they don't specifically say what questions and answers are going to be covered. This might actually be the engineering panel.
Well, there is only an hour for Q&A, and I feel like they'll need a lot longer. So
I have a feeling that they're going to have like one or two people for engineering, and that's why they brought it up.
Now, here's the question: is it going to be a true Q&A, or is it going to be a Gamescom Q&A?
It's usually a true Q&A. Like, hadn't it always been every year where a bunch of people are standing around, people just raise their hands, and red shirt guy that stumps somebody and makes headlines?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other stuff, they're kind of just really vague on, or they just say, no, we're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have an hour for this guy, so we're just going to give you vague answers.
Yeah, pretty much. But, I mean, for the most part, they're pretty good on lore questions, and they're pretty good on deeper issues with stuff that they're already working on. So, like, if you ask them a question on something they're working on at the moment, then they can usually go back and say, hey, this is what what we're doing, or this is how we're going to fix it, or that's a good question, we haven't figured that out yet. And for those kind of questions, they're more respectful to people for asking.
I can't wait to see the lore questions after the whole alternate universe thing.
Alternate universe, separate timeline. It doesn't have... Oh.
Yeah, I can just see it now. Just when they start doing questions about lore, people are going to be like, okay, so the Burning Legion is outside of space and time, and we're in an alternate universe, Azeroth. You said Archimond is the same Archimond that we fought because he's outside space and time and he exists in all space and time. So what before he was Archimond, does that mean there were many of them and they're just absorbed into the one being? And the Blizzard lore guys up there like, 1 second. Just gets on his phone and starts talking to Metzen or something. And he starts doing advanced math on the space-time continuum and stuff, trying to figure out what's going on.
Forget to turn his mic off and goes, I fucking told you not to do this time travel shit. Seriously.
And then he's just like, well, to explain your question, hamsters. Next.
I don't think there's anything else to really go over on this not official announcement, schedule announcement yet. Unless anybody else has anything on it.
Not really.
Not
Zin?
really.
Okay.
Just be
Although I
interested
do
to
want to
see what they
say,
talk about.
I do want to say that engineering Q&A, I highly doubt that it's going to be just only engineering. So people prepare your questions for other things other than that too.
Yeah, there'll probably be CMs there to guard the engineers from the attack.
Yeah.
I got the perfect question for the engineers. How hard would it be to add jiggle physics?
I thought they put that in with Warlords.
They do have a little bit of jiggle physics, actually.
Every one of my characters is a female. The chest is like a lump of rocks. They don't move.
No, they move. Have you ever
Not
seen
mine.
Have you ever seen a Worgen dance?
Moving on. So, on September 30th and October 1st, there were a few patch notes released. The ones I care most about, and there's a PvP one that Mike can take care of, but PvP. Ones I care most about, I know Zen does too, and I'm not so sure about Table. I only say that because I know Zen was the most vocal about it.
True.
Was the raid nerfs. So Kilrog, his Heartseeker, now does damage and spawns the blood things only against the target of the target that was the ability was initially targeted for on normal difficulty. Before, if everybody got hit by it, all blood spawned and all that fun stuff happened. And they significantly reduced the health of the blood and the fell blood on normal difficulty. I don't really see this as a huge issue. You're just taking away one mechanic from normal and you're adding it to heroic. And then on top of heroic, when you get to mythic, there's also another mechanic. So you're just building mechanics on top of each other. Zin, you have a problem with that one?
Yes. So
okay, go.
What I don't like it in the sense that if that's what their intention was to begin with, why didn't they just start like this? If they really wanted the scaling between the 3 difficulties to be more significant. I feel a little slighted because as a more casual raiding guild, I used to be in more of a hardcore back in Wrath, and the casual nature of ours is this is like, all right, well, it's like an enrage timer, how I described it to you previously, where your guild has a certain amount of time before they, make it into a baby raid. And now am I going to feel the same satisfaction when we actually get to Archimond and kill him? No, because now I know that he's been nerfed, and it's not the same as the other guilds that have gotten to him and beaten him.
Okay.
I mean, it's not. I didn't really consider it that much different from like when they slowly started nerfing Ice Crown or slowly started nerfing Cataclysm Dungeons and all that. I just felt that was what they were doing. But just like we're later in the expansion now, so we're going to nerf the raid a little bit. And all you people that took too long, sorry, your victory over the raid is devalued.
Exactly, which is, I understand, but at the same time, like how Table was saying that Legion isn't even in alpha yet, where their timeline seems a little fast. I mean, I know it's been out for a long time, and we should be there if we were getting there, but it just doesn't. I still remember when we killed the Lich King. I know exactly where I was, exactly how it felt. It felt fantastic. Like, underneath me having my kids, like, it felt that good. And it's just sad to see that this is not going to. Because are we going to make it to heroic mode, Archimond, so we get that really feeling? No.
Zen, I hate to break it to you, but when we downed the Lich King, it was after the patch for the change to Cataclysm.
Oh God.
It was. Because that's whenever there was changes to the Paladin tree and the Death Knight tree and the way different abilities were working.
Mystic, that even hurt me a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna go die now. See you guys
later.
Well, what I'm trying to
be sure they're right.
What I'm trying to say here is these nerfs here are not like that nerf was. It was still a very hard encounter, the Lich King encounter. Even after that, it wasn't a nerf to the encounter. It was a mechanical change to our classes.
But they did that. They did that with every expansion. Now they have Cataclysm. They took the boss's health away, and
right.
In Mop, I believe they did the same. They made some of the abilities hurt less, and some of the bosses had a little bit less health, but still, that's pretty much the same as the nerf in Wrath, where it just buffed your group. Instead of buffing you, it made it easier on the engineering team and said, hey, figure out to crunch numbers, make the bosses a little bit easier.
And another thing you can continue to take away from our raid Zen, is out of all the bosses here they did that nerf to, there's only 2 bosses that we didn't encounter. We downed Kilroy before the change. We downed the Hellfire High Council. We actually downed them before multiple changes when it was still harder.
Yeah, that
And we
one
even-
time that we 2-healed it.
Our first night on Vilhari, we downed her the first night, and that was the week before.
Yeah. So our group has progressed through all these encounters before these nerfs, with the exception of 2.
Yep, you earned it.
So
And
I add like an alternate scenario to Blizzard. Again,
Okay.
if you're listening, why? So your assumption is that the raid, maybe Blizzard's assumption is that the raids are getting to these bosses and just failing repetitively over weeks. But maybe if they nerfed the trash, which takes goddamn forever to get through, then we could have more time to do it on the bosses, more time to deal with the bosses' mechanics as they were. So it's more like we're getting to the bosses and getting them how they were designed to be down. We don't have to wade through the piles and piles of crap to get there.
The trash in Hellfire, in my opinion, is a bit excessive from what we've been used to recently. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
There is some trash that I don't understand how it actually damages me. That one melee ad a couple weeks ago hit me for 800,000 damage. And I was standing right in front of him.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Well, I'm personally in the school of people that wishes there was no trash and we could just do like a TOC thing. I hate doing trash. Like if I could go AFK during trash and people wouldn't get angry at me, then I would. But regardless, I did notice that Blizzard has been at least doing one thing on trash where it seems like before the boss fight, you encounter the boss's abilities from the trash before you actually go into the transition into the boss fight on some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I do agree there's way too much trash between bosses. Like they need to lessen the trash or weaken the trash or
Yeah, and then the raids that get to these bosses would have significantly more time. Like when we progress, it takes a long time to get through that stuff. So we get to that, and there's a lot of bosses. So we finally get to the bosses. We do 2-3 times, and then that's it until the next time. So if we could just cut that and do 8 to 10 tries, then I'd say our success rate would significantly rise.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it would be nice if, after you defeated a boss, if you had an option that you either toggle or talk to an NPC about, where you defeated up to this boss, so you have an option to toggle the trash off up to that boss, and that way you could just sort of speed through the bosses, like the bosses you have on farm, and then you have more time to get through your progression for the night. Like I feel like that could be a middle ground, at least.
Yeah, like make it a guild achievement so you don't have random pugs that are able to do the same. So if a guild has cleared this wing, 5 times, then make it so trash doesn't exist in this wing, so it's on farm.
Yeah, it's like maybe an NPC that only talks to guild groups or something. And like you have this achievement, so would you like to skip the trash? Would you like us to take care of the trash? Like, if you want to make it more lore friendly, like RPer friendly, just have the NPC be like, you guys have already done so much. You want us to handle this trash for you, and then maybe some NPCs go in and clear the trash out for you, and you take care of the bosses or something. But just something they can figure something out for that. But I just mean like that'd be really cool if they could maybe put that in the game to where you just have more time for progression. And I think that would cause groups like ours where like people like me, I can only raid for 1 day really because I can't afford to lose sleep for 2 days. So it'd be cool if that 1 day we could get pretty far. Like maybe the Sunday group downs Archimond, and then there's no trash, so the Saturday group can now down Archimond. But it'd make it easier for stuff like that to happen. Like, of course, if we're going to down Archimond on Sunday, I will probably show up that Sunday, but I will sacrifice my sleep to down Archimond.
Well, just to address our own raids, like our Saturday raid has turned into an alt raid because like we still want to do those bosses, but mostly there's at least half of our group that's running on alts, which is fine, but that takes away the point of doing those bosses for the progression of the raid, since it's not progression anymore. So I agree with everything that you're saying, Mike.
I know Table wasn't there last week, and you weren't on Vent yet, but even though we're bringing these alts, we did make the rule that if a main player rolls for a tier piece against an alt, regardless of what the numbers are, the main character's gonna get the tier piece over the alt.
Cool.
So, and that was mostly because my luck. I don't get crap in raids. Just letting everybody know that. Nothing drops for my class that somebody else can't use. So the majority of the raid rolls on it, and once it finally dwindles down to me where I can roll on it, it's like, okay, well, we're having alts run, and I didn't really say anything that was my fault, but I mean, other than that, if there's those people out there that miss out on their gear, it definitely helps later in the raids when there's progression. If you have somebody that's under geared, you still want to run those lower ones.
Yeah. That's why it'd be nice to turn off the trash instead of, like, some people would say, why don't you just do the partial lockout, like save the lockout for the next week? But it's like, then you're not doing those bosses, so if the newbie comes with you, you can't gear him up.
Right. So. And the whole reason behind the alts coming on our Saturday raid was just so there wasn't as much loot being wasted.
Yeah.
Back to the patch notes. Hellfire High Council reduced damage of Dark Whispers, Welling Horrors by 30% normal difficulty. I never really thought that was a big concern. Zyn, you're a healer. Was that big of an issue?
That was the most significant damage dealing time during the entire encounter, actually. So that was definitely the most stressful time because we had to deal with the debuff that he put on everybody. So we still had to dispel and keep people up, and that was when you had to use your cooldowns. It was actually 30% is very, very significant.
Mm-hmm. So that is going to make it easier for people who haven't had a chance to progress through it.
I could hear Zyn miles away going, why is everybody standing outside the healing circles?
Basically.
But once again, especially on Hellfire High Council, that was the one that I noticed the most was getting hot fixed almost daily for a while there. And we downed them before a lot of the hot fixes were in place. So, making it easier for less skilled people and pugs? Sure. Gorefiend, Shared Fate doesn't happen on normal or Wayfinder difficulty anymore. And Construct's Hunger for Life not only affects fixated players on normal difficulty. Shared Fate, I don't think was, after we actually got everybody to understand what the hell it was in our group, wasn't a big issue. I'm okay with it being removed from LFR. Because, oh dear God, LFR.
Yeah, I agree, but in normal, I don't think that should be something that should go away because the bosses after Gorefiend have a lot of mechanics with them. So if we water down these ones, then when we have to deal with throwing the eye during the bird fight, I mean, there's you got to keep the raid fresh, and if you're watering it down, then you're gonna just get lazy, I think.
And the construct of hunger for life. We had it happen like 1 or 2 times when we first started pulling it, and after that, nobody ran no skeletons in the groups, unless they're wiping up the pool. So that one, I don't understand the change on that one.
Yeah, I don't quite either. I mean, I guess it makes it so you can only, if you're an idiot, you only get punished yourself. You don't take out someone that's not being an idiot.
Though, at the same time, I am a person who is very much so against a mechanic that goes on one individual that can wipe the entire raid.
I appreciate them letting me be an idiot because I can do Evanesque and run straight into it and nobody worries about it.
So, I'm actually on the fence on this one, now that I think about it even more. I've said in past podcasts, and I've even said in the raid, I highly dislike abilities that, Zen screwed up on not dispelling Mike. Well, Zen wiped the entire raid.
Zen, what the...
God, I'm sorry, Mike. But you're a rogue, so my healing buttons don't work for you. I'm sorry.
Well, I should have Cloak of Shadows, so there's that. I mean... I know, I'm a rogue. I have tools for everything, so I should have been on it.
Or Table didn't get to the group for this debuff and spread it, and if you don't spread it, it just does massive AoE damage to everybody. And that can kill you. I'm not a fan of those abilities.
Well, I get to kill something, right?
Right?
I am going to speak to the defense of those abilities. I actually like them because it makes sure that your guild is very on the ball, and everyone, it's the terrible analogy of the cogs working in the clock where everyone has to be doing the right thing. So I think it would be very difficult to phase those kind of abilities out, like if it affects 2 people, so then you can spread the blame. Like that would be the only benefit to those.
I feel like it kind of makes a difference on whether it's multiplayer content or a lot of people doing single player content. Like, it kind of keeps the line unblurred for that, because it makes you feel like you're more a part of the group when your actions have consequences for the entire group versus your actions only have consequences for yourself, which kind of makes it feel like looking for raid, where you're just one person in a whole group of people that really isn't part of the group. You're just part of the clusterfuck. That's looking for raid in a nutshell. You are just part of the clusterfuck. You are not special.
Tyrant, the Aura of Oppression Stage 1 and Corruption Stage 2 increases slowly over time on normal difficulty. I don't really have a issue with that one. If you have a DPS, because it's DPS check encounter, it wasn't an issue. But if you have bad RNG, your pulls up there. Actually, the more I'm talking about, the more...
I feel like I'm always going to be against you in these things, Mystic.
That's fine.
So my thoughts are, especially the
That's why
Aura
you're here.
of Contempt. The Aura of Contempt is all about limiting how much health you can have to top people off, which is a serious, serious stress to healers. Because, especially looking at their frames, because the raid looks like they're all at half health, but they're all max health. It's very psychologically confusing. It's like a really good stress, if you know what I mean, where it's all about, holy crap. And as a disc priest, I actually benefit a lot more than my fellow healers because I don't have to worry about overhealing because I'm just shielding during those stages. So it's I think increasing it more slowly. I mean, I think it's a really good stress, so I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah. Out of all the that change, okay, you know what, Blizzard, do this. Put an NPC in there like you did for Ice Crown, where you can turn the buff off in Ice Crown, so we can turn that off, because I understand, and this will go into the Watcher topic post. I understand why they're doing it, but these changes are something they should have done either before Hellfire was released or in the first raid on Legion.
When it comes to the NPC, I am against that because it's kind of like the same people that said there should be flying mounts. Well, if you don't like flying mounts, don't use them. And I'm sitting there like, really? So I'm going to throw away this benefit just because you guys cried for it and then finally got it, and then I have to throw it away because I don't like it? No, I'm going to use my flying mount, and I'm going to benefit from it. I'm still not going to like it, but I'm still going to benefit from it. If that NPC's there, we're still going to use them. We're still going to get more gear, but we're going to hate it in the process.
Yeah. Okay, then. Maybe these changes should have been done before Hellfire came out, or start with the next raid encounter.
I agree with having normal being at that standard that they said before they did it, and that went to Watcher's Post. They already mentioned that's how they had raids in mind, but the fact that they made the mechanics like that, how they are now, we're borderlining heroic difficulty with it. Things don't hit as hard. Maybe you can get hit by things once, but it's still borderlining that heroic difficulty.
Mm-hmm. And the way that they make encounters is they actually attune it for heroic, and then they do number changes and adding mechanics for normal and mythic. So I don't know how the hell you say that word, but the big void walking looking dude. Anybody want to take a crack at that name?
Zul'Harrak.
Okay.
There you go.
We actually did a.
Oh, that was amazing.
Right? We did just a what the hell pool on him Sunday, and I can't give that much feedback on it, but let's reading these fell orbs no longer create patches of fell blaze if it fails to impact a player on normal or raid finder.
So
that one just good.
So to speak to that, it's all about the different fields of crap that you have to put accurately around the raid. So again, it's the watering down where if you have one group member who's like in Gorefiend, if they drop the well right in the middle of everything, it screws things up. So there's just a lot more of the fell blazes. So if you don't try to keep them over on one side and try to build it one way, then you're going to have a really tough time. But at the same time, since we haven't done this extensively, I don't feel as bad about it because I don't know necessarily how it was. Like we did it in Raid Finder a ton. That's fine. Who cares? But since we didn't do it and now it's getting watered down, I don't care as much.
This change here, I really think could have been done without on normal. On Raid Finder, anything to take abilities out of Raid Finder, just do it.
Yeah, can I say that I really, really hate this boss on Raid Finder for multiple reasons?
And what would they be, Mike?
One, I need the boss before him, but groups get stuck on him, so every time I queue up, I'm on him instead of the boss before him, which I need. And two, every time that I get in a group that's on him, they die repeatedly, and then I just leave. Oh, and 3, everyone dies on him, and the boss after him. Constantly. So, yeah.
We should have been the LFR that Table and myself were in. I forget who else was there. But I would actually keep up his DPS, and the tank left, and just keep it going. I went tank, and the tank we had with us didn't tank a damn thing. We ended up wiping out, and I yelled, going to tank one thing. Just one thing. Unstable, void filled, violet, void steps no longer spread. Again, on Rayfinder, taking it out, great. On normal, I don't think it. These two being taken out on normal, I don't see a big deal on them. All right, in our group here, who has done Archimon on LFR the most? I've done them 5 times.
That's more than me.
I haven't done them at all.
Table?
Does this include every wipe?
Yes. Oh no, just you include how many times you've encountered them.
Oh,
3.
encounters?
Yeah.
Probably more than 5.
More than 5?
Yeah.
Table?
I did 3, but I wound up fighting him about 40 times.
All right, Zen, take away this Archimon nerf.
So... no, hold on.
Did you lose the link?
No, I'm staring at it. I just got to remember, because in LFR I pay less attention to things. More just... which is bad, but I talk about watering down the normal raid. Well, the LFR is a huge watering down of that. So, hold on. Oh yeah, the whole not having living shadows, that makes me sad, because that was a significant part of the Archimond, even the LFR, where just adding different elements into the mix just to change the encounter, where you're not having these living shadows, then that's just watering it down again.
All right, what about this Rot Chaos on normal?
Honestly, I would have to look up that ability to have a real opinion on it. I don't remember the Rock Chaos. I definitely remember the ads being spawned, but not the Rock Chaos. Let me check it out.
I'm actually kind of curious on these changes, for Archimon at least. How much of it was taken from the encounter from LFR? How many wipes there were, and all the complaining about Archimon and LFR there was?
I'd say that that would be partially the larger impact of it, because this is affecting normal more than it is Rangefinder. But since it's on the lower end and it doesn't affect heroic and mythic at all, I would say that the majority were the complaints from people in LFR.
Yeah, I hear a lot of complaints of people doing him in LFR. That's one of the reasons why I don't do him. Because one of the main complaints I hear is that the fight takes way too damn long for one fight. So
The reason why it really takes too long is because people keep wiping on them and wiping on them.
yeah, it could take upwards of an hour just to do that one boss for one loot table. I get that he's alone in that wing of LFR, so it's like instead of doing 3 bosses, you're just doing one long fight. But at the same time, you're still getting the same amount of loot for doing a longer fight, which is the part that I don't really care for.
Sure.
You're not getting 3 bosses of loot for the time spent. You're getting 1 boss of loot for the time to take down almost 3 bosses, depending on which wing you do, of course. But because there is that stupid little Zul'Harak guy that just needs to die. But anyway.
And one more Hellfire Citadel change was Fell Lord Zakun Clove Soul should only now be applied to the target with the highest threat. I actually haven't read up on that that particular spell, but if that's how it was worded and this is a change for it, I don't got a problem with that one at all. It's not really even a nerf.
If it's something that was supposed to go on a tank, anyways, and it went on an off tank that wasn't taking it, it just sounded like it was more of a mistake and a fix.
That's the boss I need for my fist weapon, so they can nerf it all they want.
Right?
Mike, you want to take these two PvP things before we go on to Watcher's post about the raid difficulties and everything?
Sure. There's not much in PvP. Move on.
Okay.
The biggest change is the ancient artifacts thing now increases maximum health by 25% instead of 100%, so it's less annoying and less insane for the person that has the ancient artifact. But really, it's not a huge significant issue because nobody likes Asheron anyway, so who cares? And obviously they made fixes to mercenary mode because it's new, so obviously it's broken. So, Blizzard game.
Well, druids are always broken.
This is why we need Urs in here, so he can say something like "fuck you" or something.
I figured mercenary mode would have stuff they need to fix, and usually druids are the ones to break new stuff. So, well, new stuff that involves any form of shape shifting your character into a different race or something. Usually druids are the ones to break that kind of stuff. But,
all right.
Yeah, there's nothing really game breaking that happened in PvP.
So after those patches on the 30th, people took to the forums like they always do because that's what players do who want to be vocal, apparently. This Sam K person seems fine, really. Target audience for normal will appreciate the changes, and the world keeps turning is probably fine. Line between tweaking numbers so that mechanics don't feel threatening, and then wondering, well, if no one cares about the melee, why the hell do we have them? Which is true. If there's a mechanic that you just go, I'm going to hit you, then what's the point of being there? Watcher says they have been consistently successful in doing that, but they're reflecting on how normal turned out, and they rather remove mechanics from normal difficulty entirely and leave them in than leave them in, make them non-threatening, which I agree with.
Yeah.
If they're going to make a change to a mechanic that if they lower numbers is just a don't worry about it thing, just remove it.
Well,
it's one less bar on my Billy Boss mods.
They the thing that they're doing with this, and I'm going to use Council as an example of this, and what it is that all the mechanics do things, and with what they do, even if it does like a very small amount of damage, if maybe it silences you a little bit, all the ones that you don't really care about, they'll usually hit you all at the same time. So whenever that void fade starts, everything's covered. Ads go everywhere. Like you can't avoid them unless you have something like Blink. And you got to stay in the circles if you want to get healed. Avoid the void circles. So then it's like all these mechanics happening at once, and you gotta work at that. If you don't really try to figure out which mechanics are going on at that time, you're going to die. And this isn't just from a normal point of view. This is from heroic and mythic. If you're outside those healing circles and you're not using your damage reducing skills, you're going to die on that phase. And all these other mechanics aren't really affecting us. It's all of them at once.
Okay. I see what you're saying, but going on with what he's saying, removing mechanics from normal also changes what you gotta do going from normal to heroic. I enjoy that gotta change. You might have to change your strategy up going from normal to heroic if they add a new mechanic. Right now, from what I've seen, if you go into heroic, you keep your same strategy. You just make sure your healers heal more.
Yeah, and you just stay out of things that do damage because it hurts a lot more.
I feel like I'm the only person that thinks that there's just way too many mechanics on some bosses that is perfect on normal, but when you go into heroic or you go into mystic and you have somebody that screws up on one mechanic and dies, there's just way too many to avoid at once. You're constantly staring at your DPM, and there's and making it where you almost never get hit. It's just something that they don't need. I don't think that they need to start adding mechanics. I think that what they need to do is they need to start off with all the mechanics in Mythic and then reduce them. Just like they have now, reduce them in damage so people know what's going on and they can practice in the other modes. Or have it where it just starts off with more in Mythic. And if you're doing heroic, it should be along the same lines as Mythic. I don't think that should be a difference in mechanics. But when you get down to normal, yeah, it's supposed to be a lot easier. They didn't even have normal at the beginning of MOP, like as we do now. This is still considered flex. This is like LFR. This is like if Mythic had an LFR. This is just not supposed to be crazy hard.
Someone else gonna say something?
Yep. New mode in Legion, epic.
I'm waiting for the next comments going down.
Okay, before we get there, there is a lot of encounters where there is way too many mechanics going on, or there's not enough mechanics going on for the range versus the melee versus the tank. Sometimes there's a crap load for the tank, sometimes there's a crap load for melee, sometimes there's a crap load for ranged, and the other one's just going, well, I just stand here and hit the boss, or I stand here and heal people. I think spreading the mechanics around a little more evenly would be better. But if you had the same mechanics in Highway from Mythic to normal, it's not going to really change the way you're playing. You're just going, okay, this does 500 damage here. Okay, on Heroic it does 1,000, and on Mythic it does 2,000. So I just keep doing my same thing on all three difficulties, and we win. So adding a mechanic at each step, each interval, has the potential to change the way you engage the encounter, which keeps it more exciting for the player.
No, I definitely agree with what you're saying, Mystic, because that makes it get that feeling of accomplishment, whereas it's not just a gear check between them, it's actually a skill check.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to counter my counter table?
I would actually.
Go for it.
I'd like to say that the way that Mythic is set up now, it is incredibly hard. That is exactly why it took 472 tries for Method to down Archimond. And for the mechanics in this, like the way that they're set up is that you're supposed to be moving as a group here, you're supposed to be moving as a group here, maybe one person moves out of the group here, one person moves back in the group here. Well, if you add in another mechanic, then you have more movement, and I mean that's a good thing too. But really, when you go up a step in difficulty, that's not only making their damage higher, that's making their health higher, which in turn makes our DPS need to raise, which is not going to happen. You can't just like have that go on without we've hit the berserk on a couple bosses or in rage. Um, and you can't just switch because that you know how the fight's going to go. You can't switch because you know how to get out of the way. You can't switch because this skill is going to hurt harder, so I know to move this way. It's not going to be that easy of a change. It's going to be more of, is your group going to be able to use their mitigations easier and in the right spots now? Or will they die because they've been off a few seconds on the other ones? Mythic's about doing things perfectly anyways in the first place. If they add any more mechanics now, that's definitely not going to be good for anybody that's rating Mythic right now. If it took 472 tries for Method, the best rating guild in the world, it's going to obliterate every other guild, and not very many people are going to be having a chance at that.
I'm not saying right now adding a mechanic to Mythic on Hellfire. What I'm envisioning, obviously not saying it correctly, what is, say Mythic starts with these 10 mechanics. All right? From those 10 mechanics, Heroic gets 8 of those mechanics. And from Heroic, Normal gets 7 or 6 of those mechanics. Whenever you go from the Normal to the Heroic, you get those 2 mechanics you didn't have in Normal back, and you don't worry about them. And go from Heroic to Mythic, you have all of the mechanics now to work with. I'm not saying, okay, well, we have 10 mechanics on each one, but you know what, let's add 5 to Mythic halfway through the raid.
Well, still on that point with having more mechanics on something, it makes it for different bosses. Obviously, it's going to be harder to do that on some bosses.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be harder for guilds to move up. Definitely not going to be able to pug things that are like that unless they're already rating that current content. So carrying is going to be extremely excruciating for anything like that. But yeah, I mean, that does sound like it would be a good thing. On, I'd say, 75% bosses, but do we really need more mechanics on Gorefiend? Like, for how much the floor is covered, how much you can run, I would never want to see anything like more mechanics on that kind of a fight.
Well, no. On Gorefiend, you have your however many mechanics there actually are, but now they took away the shared fate from Normal. That's still in Heroic. They took away the explosion from Normal, but that explosion still happens in Heroic. So, if it was actually programming this now before any of us ever touched Hellfire, maybe you take away the explosion from Heroic and you just have it in Mythic.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel like progression to me.
Okay.
Well, I personally always thought that Blizzard should go a little more away from trying to make it make a fight super complex, and it instead be more make the fight simple but hard, if that makes any sense. Like something can be super simple but also be insanely hard. Like, for instance, Meat Boy, it's just your standard platformer, and the mechanics are simple, yet people have a really hard time doing that. I'm not saying raid fights can ever be like Meat Boy or anything, but
well, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. But I feel like Blizzard, with as many people are working on this stuff and all that, instead of just, it kind of feels like they're just throwing stuff into the fight to make it more complex, instead of coming up with creative ways to make the fight harder without making it overly complex, which I think would be a little more enjoyable to have a fight that you had a team of people that came up with a creative way to make it harder, instead of just let's up the numbers and number of stuff you have to deal with, and that just makes it artificially harder. But I do I am one of those people that do agree that Mythic should be insanely hard. Though just like very limited number of people can do it. Like you have to be on point, you have to do everything perfect. I'm okay with that just because it's one of those it's like a difficulty in the game that's not for everybody. Like challenge modes isn't for everybody.
Mhm.
And it's kind of your badge of honor for a lot of people. So I'm okay with it being like super hard, but there's a difference between being super hard and being so complex that you need a college textbook to explain the fight to you. Like you need a college textbook on the mechanics of Archimond, and it's like 50 pages. But because whenever I read these fights, like on Mythic difficulty and stuff, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to follow this. If my raid leader is telling me all this stuff, plus that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, how long fights take and how long it takes us to get to progression bosses and stuff. It's like when you have to explain the fight and the fight takes several hours to explain, you're wasting time on being able to progress further on your given raid night for like those people that have 1 day to raid. So you don't want to be sitting there spending an hour explaining the boss and then everyone have questions. So you have to spend several minutes answering their questions and then get all coordinated and then you're finally ready to take the boss. I think it should Blizzard should have something where they're just like, okay, you make the mechanics of the boss, then you have to explain them to me. If it takes longer than this amount, we have to start over or something. But like longer than this amount of time to explain it to me and me to fully understand it. Like personally, I think it should take maybe 15 to 30 minutes maybe to explain a boss fight and people actually get it.
Wow. When's the last time you were in a scenario where you first encountered a boss and I explained the mechanics?
Do what?
When's the last time you were in a raid whenever I explained the mechanic on in Hellfire? Because I could pretty much go avoid a thing, drop a thing over here. Here's the name of the thing.
Well,
get this on
to be
you,
honest,
do
I
this.
kind of zone out. I kind of zone out when you start explaining a boss fight, and I usually read the adventure guide and just the DPS part. Like, what do I have to do? And that unless you say my name, I usually zone out.
So Zen, you were. Go ahead, Zen.
Go ahead.
Just kidding.
I was just gonna say, then you want to talk about this section of the post. You want to take over while I go strangle Mike?
Yeah, sure. So the next post comes from a member called Sabid, and he asks, "Who is the target for normal?" And I thought it was friends and family groups. Has it now changed to pugs with minimal coordination and no voice communications, which is what LFR is? So the GM decides to answer. Apparently they have a subsection, which I didn't know about before, but there's 3 different types of rating that they consider. So there's friends and family groups where the people prioritize social interactions over actual raiding, where they could raid, but they're not expected to do super well because they're mostly in there for social reasons as opposed to gear reasons. Then we have raiding guilds where they actually have to recruit, get different classes, so they don't have a whole bunch of druids in there. Can you imagine more than one Urs? I certainly wouldn't want to be in that raid.
Yeah, nope.
And hardcore, where they have the same thing as raiding guilds, but they have to up it up one level, where even if you're the only rogue, Mike, but you suck, then you're going to get replaced by another rogue that's better. So it's more of an elitist environment at that point. So I think I would love to speak to this because it seems like what they're trying to do is what the entire United States is doing, where everyone gets a trophy, everyone gets to participate. Where I always thought that LFR was you get to see the bosses, and it's easier, even though you lose, you still get the opportunity to see the bosses, get the lore kind of thing. But now it seems like they're doing the same thing for normal with this reduction They're trying to make it more of the friends and family groups could do these things, as opposed to the raiding guilds. The raiding guilds should have moved on to heroic by now, and the hardcore should be working on mythic. That's where I see these subsections going. Now I'm sad because I'm in the more of the friends and family groups stuck in normal.
I kind of have a counter argument for that because, I mean, we didn't have normal until flex. And this is exactly where I would have put that category. We're never going to kick anybody. We're always going to accept people into our groups. And if they fail, I mean, we're going to deal with it and we're going to keep going and we're going to just try the boss again. We haven't kicked a single person out of a raid, and we won't. And
I might.
Yes, we have.
have we?
Yeah, I've removed people. Like, we brought them in for the first 3 bosses because they wanted to go, and we were able to carry them on that until we were progressing on the council. And before we even made the first pull, I asked them to leave because the gear, and told them when they get more gear, they can come back, and they got more than the minimum requirement, and they came back.
Oh, well, that wasn't a performance issue. That was a gear issue.
I mean, those could be
talk to Sane about that one. She kept with me. She had a headache because she was explaining to him how to play his class, even after the raid.
Oh. Well, then I'll
teach any rogues that want to come to our raid how to play. I'll just say, watch my videos. Are you done? Okay. If you screw up now, you're kicked.
But yeah, the way that I see this is that this is still, even though it came in at the end of MOP, I still consider this expansion difficulty bracket. It's new. Rating, I think, is still at heroic level, which would be the old normal. I feel like that's exactly where the raiding guild should be.
One thing I really do like that came from MOP and is the whole flex thing, and I'm happy they made it what they're calling the normal was, is I hated turning people away who wanted to come raid. I always disliked that. So being able to bring 11, 12 people instead of going, well, you 2 people have to go circle jerk somewhere. It's nicer.
Yeah, that's how my old build was.
It's definitely the best thing that I've seen since I came back after those 2 expansions into Warlords.
And to be 100% honest, Hellfire is really the first tier since, wow. I want to say Throne of Thunder that we've actually had a group. Because for Heimel and for BlackRock, we had our core players, and we were just filling in what we could because we didn't have the interesting rating that we have now with Zen, Aurora, yourself. We got to build up afterwards. So if we can keep this group together for Legion, I see us doing a lot better. Next expansion, blowing through normal, and then we're maybe just start off on heroic.
Yeah, I mean, really, could you see our normal group going through heroic without kicking a couple people?
There's a few who don't show up every raid that I would probably not be taking with us. There's a few that I would have to talk to about their actions doing heroic. But for the most part,
yeah, that Michaelose fellow, got to do something about him.
For the most part, I think we could do heroic with the group we have. Our Sunday group. That's where our core healers are at. That's where our core tanking team's at. So.
Yeah, I agree. It would definitely be an issue with DPS. I don't think healing or tanking would be an issue at all. With
After Saturday, tanking better never be an issue on my part.
I have an issue with Slaw.
Nobody better ever question my ability to tank.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, again, I said you guys want to do something crazy, and we tried it, and it worked. So, just everybody whoever watches this, it is possible to single tank Killer Rog. You just can't miss any groups.
Were you able to video it?
It's on my stream somewhere.
Yeah, that was awesome. But
you do highlight it out.
Have super boss healers, and since we only 2 healed it.
Well, that PD Moss guy was really great. We had the other. Who was his name?
Yeah, that Zynthia guy was trash.
No, our healers did do a very good job too.
You know what, guys? Let's talk about Urs.
So,
just kidding.
So, with all those points being made for how they see rating, I'll start with Mike. How do you see rating going into Legion? Not our group, but the overall structure rating.
I just think that these changes they made and all these statements in this blue post all kind of point towards there's going to be a change. Like, all this is just kind of them testing out what they're going to do for Legion rating. I think they're actually going to be doing it where Mythic has its own set of stuff, Heroic has its own set of stuff like they're doing now, except they're doing it now to just like test it out is how I feel. Like testing the waters, seeing how it goes for each different difficulty, having their own, having a new mechanic each difficulty or whatever. Words. But I think they're going to keep it where Mythic is obviously for the super hardcore raiders. I don't think that's really going to change much, but I feel like the gap between normal and heroic, I think it kind of feels like they're going to make the gap between normal and heroic a little bigger, a little wider, so that when you go from normal to heroic, it's more of a leap. I kind of feel like that's what they're trying to do. Is they feel like normal and heroic are too close together. Like our group being a normal group, like we do normal, it kind of feels like we can almost go to heroic and be okay. From what I've seen of heroic, anyway. I haven't actually full-on rated heroic or anything, but from what I've seen of it, it feels like you just need slightly more coordination. And so I think that's what they're going for here, is they're just trying to increase the gap between those two difficulties. And obviously, I think looking for raid is still going to continue. A lot of people think that this is the death of looking for raid, I guess, from what I've seen on browsing around forums and stuff, but I don't think looking for raid's really going anywhere. Because it's like a super easy face roll mode that you can get gear real quick if you are someone who can't make friends or something. But that's where I kind of see it all just going. Is just the gap between normal and heroic will be tweaked a little bit. But I don't see too much different going into Legion, but we'll see.
Table. You're next.
All right, so this post was a year ago. So this was actually done slightly over a year ago. This has been in effect in our expansion since the expansion's been out. And I think that normal is where it should be. I think that we kind of have to face the facts. Most guilds are doing normal, and it's kind of easy content. And they need to kind of face the facts that it is easy, and it's not going to be something that we have to struggle against too much. We haven't been like sitting people aside and talking to them or trying to have to recruit specifically for parts. This just, we've been running without melee. So really, we've been missing out on a whole handful of mechanics. Uh, as far as moving into the future with uh, with this whole scheme of LFR, normal, and all that, LFR is going to stay, and I'm glad it's staying. All the casuals that don't raid can run through the content and learn the lore and learn the bosses and still get good gear. As far as a little bit moving upwards, wanting to raid, people are still going to have to go through the full steps. If you want to be able to raid heroic, you're going to have to do normal and get the gear. Get the gear, go to heroic. Get that gear, go to mythic. The only people that aren't going to be doing that are the people that are trying to get world first. I think that this is the scheme that that they should have been using for a while now. But as far as this goes, it's a good pattern to how to get your gear for the next year.
Okay, Josh or Zin?
So I agree with what Table's saying, where LFR is definitely not going to go anywhere. I think that Blizzard is finally realizing that the majority of their subscribers are not hardcore raiders, and that's why they're watering down content. So I think what they're going to do is make normal more of a casual experience, where they're going to have LFR, and the normal is going to be, yeah, you have a loose group of people. You can pug and still be successful. And I think they're going to try to make it more, have these nerfs at the beginning as opposed to now. And so the build-off is that more of the raiding guilds should be able to get through normal faster and into heroic. So that's where they're going to be progressing into heroic, since they want those people to feel that kind of satisfaction with normal. And they have a lot more casual people. So to keep them happy and not unsubscribing because they can't do it, they're going to make normal less of a challenge. That's where I think it's going to go, based on what I've seen.
Okay. So every single one of you said LFR not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
We see with Apex system that it's not beneficial to run LFR for gear, right?
It depends how fast you want your gear.
Yeah. And whether you want to see lore while you're getting your gear.
Long term, LFR gear is useless. Baleful gear is always going to be better, but if you want to actually farm out some gear and get character geared in a couple weeks, it's fine.
We also have time locking now, right?
Yep.
With
Of course, that's just once a month. But
twice.
Or twice. Is it twice a month?
You get a BC and a Lich King one.
Yeah, but they alternate, and then they have the mythic dungeon run, which takes the place of a time locking.
Yeah, that's stupid mythic. Well, plus you got mythics too. I don't see them doing LFR the way they've been doing it. I more see them moving that towards a storytelling aspect of the game, which is what a lot of people use it for, because they want to see the lore. So, going with that, if they do another legendary, or when they do another legendary, I don't think they're going to have the bulk of it be in a raid. And if they do, it'll just be off the first couple bosses. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah. Really, I kind of hope if they do another legendary, well, they are going to do another legendary. I mean, come on. But when they do another legendary, I don't mind that they have some of it in raid and all that. I hope they do a revamp of the whole system. anyway, because I don't like the whole collecting stuff, like from bosses and collecting. I wouldn't mind if they just made it where you go in and kill a boss. That's fine with me, but I hope they don't go with the whole you have to collect 5,000 of these from bosses and stuff like that. But who knows? I'm not really sure what they're planning for a legendary. I kind of
Well,
wish
I
they'd
think
go back
that
to
it's
the old a boss drops them. Like maybe have the legendary everyone can get, and then have a legendary that a boss drops or something. But
Zen?
I think that they're catering towards the audience that they have, where their audience is more of the casuals, aka Facebook gamers, where that's what they do. They play like the Farmville, the Clash of Clans. They collect things. They do repetitive things like that, and that's what I think. Where people, that's why they added in the Garrison to make it more of a Facebook-esque experience, so more casual gamers could be successful.
World
make it
of
more
Twitter.
approachable.
Roll Twitter. I like that one. While they did make it more of a Facebook-esque thing, because that's what they thought their audience wanted, the outcry against that, I think, is very vocal. Not
But
only in
let's
the
think about who's being vocal about it. These casual Facebook gamers, are they going to be vocal in the pro stance defending it? Heck no. They're casual.
Half of them don't even go to the forums.
what I'm saying is you got the people against it who are posting the forums. You also got people against it who are voting with their wallet and dropping their subs.
Let's face it, most of the people that have left the game have just not found it entertaining. And everything that they've fought for, I haven't really seen many subs come back since they got flying back. But hey, all those people that were arguing about flying, they're not coming back. Who the hell cares about them?
Yeah, there's an article I was reading a few days ago where the person writing the article was making the argument that maybe the MMO genre as a whole is possibly just not enough interest, is just kind of dying away. And I thought that was kind of an interesting read. But
I don't see the MMO as a genre dying, but it has to evolve.
yeah, that's kind of the argument he was making is, as the MMO genre is right now, it's not in a position where it can sustain itself. And unless there's a major leap in how people do things with MMO, either from a new MMO or one of the existing MMOs, where there's actual innovation in the genre, then it'll just kind of die off and then come back later, like most genres usually do. But
And this isn't me so much being a fanboy as just looking at what's out there in the other MMOs I've played. For it to really evolve, a company's got to come out of the gates that has everything that surpasses Blizzard, or Blizzard's going to be that company that makes that evolution happen.
yeah, and if you're gonna make a new MMO, you really need to not copy WoW. WoW is successful and all that. I get that, but a lot of MMOs that have come out the gates, a lot of them seem to have the core template of basically it's WoW with new skin, new lore, stuff like that tied in. And that's kind of one of the things that keeps me, like when I go to a new MMO to try it out, it's kind of one of the things that I always find is there's still that underlying, how is this any different from WoW sort of thing. Like there's, especially back when we played EOS and back when I was doing MMO Explorer and I was starting to play a bunch of new MMOs for my videos.
Mm-hmm.
As I went to each MMO, the main complaint I had for each MMO is way too grindy, way too grindy, way too grindy. And I think that's one of the things that they need to kind of change, they need to fix for MMOs, because people don't want to kill. They don't want to go out and collect 50 bear claws, and only half the bears actually have those claws anymore. That doesn't fly anymore. And that's one of the problems with a lot of the MMOs I see is just people don't want to do that anymore. And yet that seems to be the formula. So Blizzard or someone needs to come out and change the formula and just turn the formula on its head. Be like, okay, we're not going to do this grindy BS anymore. Now let's make some engaging content. Let's not make dailies where you're grinding out 500 bears to get 20 bear claws. Let's make a daily where maybe you have to capture the bears and you clip their claws or something through an interactive QuickTime event.
No, no QuickTime events. No.
Well,
Hey, they had Simon
that's
Says
just a
and
loose
WoW.
example, but and it's like, especially like even professions are just so boring. And with Legion, we're getting a whole team dedicated to professions, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think that what they did that on purpose. What they did in this to try to get everyone back on the same page for professions, since it's such a bitch and a half, without any other expression coming to mind, to grind out lower level profession gathering. And I think that this was just to standardize that process. So now, even if you jump into the game in Legion, you can still go and do the garrison stuff and get your stuff up to level 700 pre-Legion. So that way, that's like the new benchmark that they have. They're getting more benchmarks for their players in order to not make it too much of a daunting experience. But I think I'm hoping that they change it back to going and actually making it more worthwhile, where everyone's not getting the same recipes. Like getting a recipe drop in a raid was awesome. I love that. And having them be more impactful for raiding was something that I enjoyed more as well. That's why I had leatherworking and enchanting on my priest back in Wrath, because I wanted to be as hardcore as I could, and the skinning didn't give me any benefits, so I dropped it and picked up enchanting. So I don't know what they're going to do, but I hope they don't water it down like this. I think this is just a standardized process now.
I would like to be able to wear more crafted gear.
Yeah, and they already said we're still going to be able to wear 3 in Legion.
Yeah. But,
I
I mean, mostly, overall, as far as WoW goes, I think when they revamped the leveling process in Cataclysm, I think from that point on, the actual leveling has been pretty good. I don't know about you guys, but I actually really, really liked all the revamp that they did for the old world. And then you kind of hit Outland and you hit a brick wall, but still, because Outland wasn't revamped. But
that's where my first boost went from. I leveled from 1 to 60, and once I hit 60, I'm like, and I'm 90.
Yeah, I find it actually pretty enjoyable to level from 1 to 60, and then you hit 60, and then you hit Outland, and you're like, can I skip? Just go to Northrend? But I think there's not really much of a problem as far as if you're a brand new player and you come in. I think there's plenty there to keep you engaged in the game and all that. It's us older players, us old coots that have been playing so long, we kind of feel like a little burnout. And the main problem I found with the game really is the end game. Blizzard just can't get a handle on the end game content. And it's like you go through this leveling process where you got bonus quests, you got cool lore cinematics showing up, you have every now and then some cool quests that break the monotony a little bit and all that. But you hit level cap and it's just like play the Garrison minigame and do some really crappy blue bar dailies. And I'm hoping in Legion, like that's the main thing I'm waiting to hear about on Legion is what they're going to do for the end game content in Legion. Do they actually have a plan? Do they have something to execute going forward that'll make the end game actually more fun? Like make it actually fun to do your dailies, make it more engaging, get people out of the Garrison, which they said they're not doing the Garrison thing, thank God. But They really need to innovate on the end game the most, I think. And if they do that, I think maybe they can get some subs back, but it has to be like a huge innovation. It can't just be more of the same. So
where do you, Zen, where do you see them taking rating going forward? Where do you see them encompassing, or see them changing, or see them improving on?
Let's think. So what I think that they're going to do is what I mentioned earlier, where they're going to make LFR. Like I agree with you, how it's going to be more of a lore situation, more of a storytelling for the people that aren't interested or don't have the friend base in here. But I think that they're going to make normal more of a entry level situation where you can throw together mismatched groups of people that you meet and be successful. I really think that they're going to keep the difference in mechanics between heroic and mythic, where they're adding on, as you were saying earlier, which I think that's a good thing myself. I always want to learn the new things and be like, oh, holy crap. So then when you go back to normal, it's like, wow, at least I don't have to dance around this other thing that's going on. But that's what I really think they're going to do, because Mythic right now is still being worked on by a ton of guilds. They're still advertising, guilds are still advertising across servers for recruitment in Mythic, so that means it has good staying power already. So why don't they I think they're going to cater to the more casual raiders, make normal more of an entry-level situation where you actually have to have some kind of consistency into the later bosses, the last ones. But for the most part, they're going to be able to get through a lot without a ton. But then make heroic harder, and then mythic, they're probably going to maybe make it even more difficult than it is, but it's probably difficult enough already. So that will be the satisfying the harder of the harder raiders.
Okay. Are you good now? You got anything else to add to that? Nothing you think they're going to incorporate from like the world, or what they can do to improve the rating?
To improve, it's really difficult. I think that what they really need to do is actually get out of the game and actually try to get people to coordinate themselves out of the game more. Like, for instance, I played a ton of Destiny on the Xbox 360, and that game was really, really fun. First MMO, first-person shooter, but it was hard to get groups, so they actually made third-party, like Wowhead and these other things, where you could actually meet people. It's more of a social gathering, and then you guys meet people, you talk about stuff, then you go out and do the endgame content. So I think the biggest issue that they have going forward is getting people invested in each other. Because this game, I married someone from this game that I met. The social interactions is what people feed off of. I think that's more of like the 70% of people that play this. 30%, it's more of the hardcore rating, the gear. But I think 70% are here for social interaction, for fun, instead of watching Netflix. So I think that they just need to help facilitate more. I don't want to make it into like a dating site, but but I'm not sure if my point's getting across here. But I think that if you can get people to not necessarily bring people to the game, but to meet people in the game, that people are interested in hanging out, then make them into the people that are going to incorporate more things.
Hold on. You may have came up with a good idea there. We could have our characters in game get a iPhone with Tinder pre-installed on it, so they can swipe that.
The way to improve
I'm sure someone will work
the
on
social
that Saturday.
The way to improve the social aspect of the way you're talking is they do need to revamp that guild recruitment feature they implemented back in Cata, I think it was. so you can find people that are more like minded, like you are. Take a system. Since we went with Tinder, we'll take a system more like Match, from Match.com, and we're looking for the guild master or officers, whoever sets up the profile and things for the guild. And we're looking for a guild. You answer questions, and the system will say, okay, these guilds here who are currently recruiting match what you're looking for in a...
Yeah, they match like 80% of the things that you answered on a questionnaire or something like that.
I'm looking for a night elf that likes taking long walks through Ashenvale.
Shut up, Mike!
This is serious business, man. This is serious.
So you're going to have guilds that you're going to be trying to apply for, and everybody in it's going to be 18 years old and blonde.
Well,
everybody's going to fit exactly what you want.
How I've been stressing over this entire podcast today is that the general population of World of Warcraft has shifted to more of a casual population. So in order to make that into converting casual gamers maybe into doing more raiding is to make it into that situation like, hey, how many people online think that they would love being in the regulators? I'm sure a lot if they knew what we were all about. Like, we're a really fun guild, but they probably get too intimidated, and everyone that advertises for raids or for guild recruitment is all about raiding. And I mean, there's some that just do social things, but if you actually knew things beforehand, like this matching system, then you could have more confidence in speaking up and being like, hey, let's try it out. I want to, you guys have similar things that I like to talk about, like even, whatever.
I think
a revamped guild finder thing.
I think a perfect thing for a guild right now is just like that guild thing. When you're looking up your guilds, you can find out what you want, put in the information, but we're missing the communication on that still. Even though you're gonna find what you want, you're still missing out on the communication. So most of the people in WoW that actually voice their opinions and want to communicate with others do it through the forums, or if they can't get a hold of them, find like texting. Nobody really calls on the phone anymore if they can text. So we should have a system in there where we have like our own forums, pull up like the Blizzard ticket UI, but it should just be like this guild, this person's trying to get in your guild. They can copy paste whatever information they want in there, or they can just read up like quick couple things that summarizes our guild. I mean, if you can see the profile or something that you can do it, actually see in your mind and figure out this is the kind of guild I want to be in, then I think that they would have it set where more people would be in the guilds that they want.
Well, they do have that guild finder thingy that I've used maybe a handful of times. But the problem I find with what they have right now really is you only have like one paragraph. So I agree with you guys. Like, there should be more that you can find out about a guild and stuff. But like an in-game forum or something. But that's one of the things, is it would kind of have to be in-game, because we all know how it is getting people to go out of the game to do stuff.
There's
Mystic
our
knows.
introduction to the guild halls. Finally bring that in. Yeah. Right, Blizzard?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely something in game, because let's face it, humans in general are lazy little bitches. So if you don't hand them something to get them involved and socially vested, then they're not going to.
But one of the things is that I feel on this topic of making WoW more social, I feel like Blizzard can do stuff to help that, but like give us the tools. But I think there's only so much they could do, and some of that does come down to the actual player base, like us actively going out and getting in touch with people, like whispering people, hey, you need help with this or something. Because I do find that it's gotten to a point. It used to be like when I was leveling, when I first played the game, it seemed like there was a lot more people willing to help me with stuff. Like I remember one time I was struggling with a quest. Like someone was seeing me dying all the time because they were going back and forth doing their own quests, and then they whispered me, they're like, "Hey, you need help." And then that's one of the ways I made one of my friends back then. That through playing the game, it's just players taking the initiative to reach out and talk to other players and help them out when they see them struggling and stuff like that. But nowadays, when I'm leveling, if I'm struggling on something for some reason, people just go by and all that. I don't know if it's a change in the player base or anything, like if people are just more consumed by something else, or but I'm just saying that some of it at least falls into the actual player base's hands on how social a game WoW actually is. Like, just because the person's not on your server doesn't mean you can't talk to them or help them. Or but yeah, Blizzard could give us more tools to do that too. Like the current looking for guild system, I think, is really lackluster, and half the time I forget it's there. Same with the looking for group system. Most of the time I forget it's there. Like I get a group quest and I've already given up on it before even trying the looking for group system. But it'd be nice if they revamped some tools, had some better tools in there, like especially for finding a guild. I would like to see the ability to have more than just one paragraph in trade or one paragraph on a looking for guild list.
Right? We got their priorities though. We got Twitter integrated.
Yeah. I would like to ask that on the coding panel or the engineering panel. How many lines of code did it take to do Twitter integration?
So, Table, how would you improve rating via just the rating thing or implementation of different aspects of bringing stuff in from outside the world or whatever?
I think that it should be a smoother transition. I think that it's Tanan's a good way of doing it, but I mean, when you go to different areas, you have this dungeon that's just sitting there, feels out of place. There's no threat coming out from the inside, but when we get in there, they're the world's biggest threat. So I think that they need to have smoother transitions for lore-wise in that too. For gameplay-wise, I think that they're kind of on the right path right now. I think that LFR is kind of hitting that sweet spot. It's still the hardest content in the game because you're getting thrown in with people that don't care. Normal is still in that struggling area for casuals. And if you're raiding with a guild that's not specifically recruiting for raiders, and yeah, I could see them getting harder with heroic and mythic. Blizzard was pretty proud in posting that their mythic content is harder than ever this expansion. So I think they're pretty proud of that, and I'm pretty happy with how it is. Being that there's always a place to struggle for. The people that say that there's nothing in WoW, I think there's too much different content of things that people don't want to do, rather than nothing to do. So as far as rating, I think that's in the perfect sweet spot. If people want to progress, there's always a little progression. Unless you've already done Mythic like 100 times, and why are you here?
Mike, same question to you.
For the most part, I haven't really felt like anything really stands out as far as rating goes. As far as what needs to change and all that, I would like to see a little more to do with lore in rating, on the lore side of things. They do have the little fancy cinematics, but I would like to see maybe something to kind of fill in some of the gaps in lore or something like that, or But that mostly ties in with me thinking they should take more of the lore from the books and put it in the game. But so you don't have to read the books to understand why Garrosh suddenly has this alternate universe.
And they could add something like that into the whole guild hall situation with the increased social aspects, where there's people talking directly about the lore. Like, if you guys played Warcraft 3, sorry to jump in and steal your thunder there, Mike, but if you've played Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, you get in certain channels, you find out the good ones, and there's just a lot of really good discussion about things, and then I just feel like we're missing that big social interaction as other games have.
Well, you missed the other night where Mike and myself are going back and forth on different ways they can do for different lore things, like the Sylvanas and her sisters and Jaina.
Yeah,
we're talking about a lot of that stuff in guild chat the other day.
Yeah, I mean, as far as social aspects, that's somewhat what I mean by players have a lot of that power in their hands right now. It's just, I notice a lot of guilds I've been in, it's just their guild chat doesn't move. Like, no one talks in guild. And it's like, why doesn't someone start a conversation about lore or something? So just people argue about PvP. Because it feels like, to me anyway, that back in the good old days of Burning Crusade, it seemed like there was a lot more discussion that went on in guilds that I was in. And nowadays, it kind of feels like the guild feels empty in a lot of ours. Usually, there's some sort of discussion going on. Someone's arguing with someone about something. Someone burnt the toast, or
no, I understand what you mean. There's not a lot of meaningful conversation going on.
Yeah, and I don't know what's happened there, like what's changed, but that's one of the things I was kind of saying earlier, was just if people would start actively trying to reach out to their fellow WoW players more often, I think it would kind of fix a lot of the how it feels now, where WoW doesn't feel nearly as social as it used to. I mean, it could just be me looking back in the past at Burning Crusade with rose-tinted glasses or whatever, nostalgia or something, and maybe I'm seeing it better than it actually was. But it feels to me things have changed.
Well, how much of that is because people are on VoIPs now? I know whenever I get on, if I want to talk to somebody or I want to talk to people, I just say get on Vent and we talk on Vent.
Yeah, that may be part of it. Like, people don't have to talk in guild chat, so they just don't. But
there's something that can add a good VoIP in for guilds.
Yeah.
Well, they do have the WoW one, but that one's total crap.
Did you hear me say the word good?
Yeah, if WoW fixed their voice chat, I feel like if they really did a major overhaul in the voice chat and made it actually good, and that you could just sort of turn it on in game and you could hear your guild, that would be cool.
Yeah, I'm stealing it away from you, Mike, again. Back to something that I really liked in Destiny, again, is they added a feature that you could do exactly that, where you jumped in, you could do matchmaking for something, some harder things you couldn't matchmake for. So in order to get people, they had the third party where you could post things about stuff and meet people, and they made it so, oh gosh, I'm losing it now. I'm sorry. Can we refresh what you said, Mike?
One sec. I'm kind of lost track.
Oh, okay. I got it again.
Oh.
So, sorry about that. A lot of things going on in this room. But,
I just want to say real quick,
yeah.
Izumi 100, I'm not sure what you're saying. It's not the language, but I'm trying to translate it.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Was it a question?
What I was saying is
Oh, yeah.
because they added in the matchmaking features you could turn on chat or not. So that's how I ended up meeting more people in order to do more of the harder things with. Is that when you got, like, if you went into like a 5-man dungeon and or yeah, like something like that, and then you were able to toggle voice like a ton of other games and talk to people. That's how you get more socially invested with people. Maybe you have some people that are really toxic that you just mute, big deal, but you have some other people that you actually really get to know and get to talk to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. By the way, Google Translate is awesome. But side note. But yeah, I agree with you. Sorry, I got kind of distracted trying to use Google Translate there, though.
Yeah, the whole making a guild chat VoIP, I think, would help out with the social aspect. And I know there's a lot of people who, in our guild, well, I can't say a lot. There's a couple people in our guild who don't like to talk and vent, but they'll type away. So they can continue to do that. And people who just respond via talking. So I think that's the way they can improve the social interaction. And as far as myself for improving other raids, I liked what Table said, stuff coming out of the raid. To take it a step further, at doing something like they did in Rift, where those things can go take over the local town that's right outside the raid. That would make it more of a lore and everything, immersion. Make it so you want to not have that flight point or something so close to the raid. Or have the summoning portal, the summoning stone right that close to the raid. I think finding a way to incorporate something from crafting, not crafting a key to get into the place, nothing like that, but incorporate crafting in a way that is meaningful, but it's not game breaking if you are able to craft something to do in a raid or something like that.
Yeah. On that, Star Wars actually has some things like that. Like slicing is hacking. So if you sliced into something, such as an elevator, you could pass trash. So that was a fun aspect of that.
There you go. That little Mike was talking about a way, I think we all were, but I just remember him being most vocal about it. But a way to skip trash, be able to create something like that, where the person drops something at the beginning, drops something at this part, and it saves for your group that, okay, they put down this teleport so we can skip this, put it through here.
Yep.
Obviously make it a little more difficult to get the recipe or get the crafting materials for it. It's just something to incorporate.
Sounds like an engineering thing.
I really like that. It sounds mostly engineering, so yeah. I'll be asking people in trade if they have engineering before they come in my group.
I already have engineering, so.
There we go. Mike, you're always in my group.
It would be cool. You know how engineering has drawbacks? It'd be cool if engineers could do that and they put it down, and maybe every now and then someone goes through it and they come out female, or they come out looking like a Tauren or something.
You and gender bending. I don't get it, man.
I said looking like a Tauren as well. It could be another race, too.
Well, the first thing you went to was gender bending.
Okay.
This is the first time we've talked. This is the first time this topic's come up on changing something, like change it to a guy or a girl if you change the opposite sex.
Well, I mean, like,
I think it's your fantasy,
like
man.
The portals work as is right now. Like when you use your engineering things to teleport around the world, it changes you to female or Tauren or a dwarf, like it did to me one day, which was annoying. But they could throw that on there just to be funny. But
real funky. You come out with like your legs where your hands should be or something.
Yeah. Like nothing to really break the raid. Like nothing to be like, you lose 5,000 DPS. Now your raid has to wait for this debuff to come off. Nothing like that. That's what I'm saying. But it'd be kind of cool if they would add something humorous like that. So each raid, you bring an engineer, they drop that stuff, you come, and you're able to use the teleporter, and someone comes through with their arm sticking out of their head. And now that's something for your raid to laugh about for a little bit to ease the tension.
And going back to incorporating something, I think it'd be really cool if you in a dungeon when you're leveling up or when you're gearing up for heroics and whatnot, if you fought a boss or two that were end up being in that tier of the raid, and they remembered your character after you beat them. So whenever they're doing their speech, Mike hears Michaelose, Table hears Table, whatever your actual full name is, Table Setter, I think it is. Zen hears Zynthia. I hear Slaw, and he's talking, and we all hear our own names. And if he didn't see the person who's there, just say something derogatory towards them.
Or they're just worried. You walk into the Black Temple and Illidan's like, no, not you again. No, go away.
Yeah. Something like that would be a little bit of a refresher.
Yeah.
I think incorporating that would be cool too.
It'd all have to be text-based, though. They couldn't really say your name.
Well, they don't say your name now. They leave it blank whenever they're talking.
Yeah.
The voice acting that does put your name in the text just stays quiet for a second and continues talking.
I think they substitute it sometimes to adventure or traveler or something.
Yeah. Commander or whatever.
It'd be cool if they could eventually get that technology where it can change the name and still sound natural, but add your name in.
Hello, Michaelose. How are you?
Yeah, more natural than that. Of course, that would be freaky the very first time, though, if they actually had that technology. Just all of a sudden the boss says, Michaelose, I'm going to destroy you. And then you just freak out, and you're like, what? Who was that? I don't remember that person on Vent. You're like, oh, wait, that was the boss. Okay. Then you get used to it, and then you just sort of tone it out.
Another thing they could do, and again, this isn't going with the one person going up to raid, but in a single encounter, when you're fighting the boss, everybody gets poured to like a different room, and you gotta take care of something there. If you die there, and your body stays there, so you can't be resurrected through normal means.
That's awesome. We should have it where it teleports you into different times. So then you would be in a different
No more time travel bullshit.
I always thought a cool thing that I'd like to see them do is add some super rare loot to a boss. Like, not actual stat loot, just cosmetic stuff that is like 0.00001% drop chance.
As long as it doesn't take up a spot on the loot table for normal drops.
It's it doesn't take up a spot on the loot table. It's not really stat gear or anything. It's just something cosmetic that's really funny or cool or something that can drop that just one night your raid's doing it, and all of a sudden Illidan's pink fluffy bunny slippers drops. And
you can transmog to wear them.
Yeah, you can transmog to wear them. And they're like these bunny slippers with a little cloth over the eyes. But they're still like pink fluffy bunnies, but they look like demon hunters. But it'd be cool if something like that could drop every now and then. You're like, oh, hey. Looks like Illidan left his slippers today.
And then a super cute bunny voice. He goes, you are not prepared, every time you take a step.
Yeah. I always thought it'd be cool if they just added something like that. Just something to kind of break up the monotony, break up the... and something for people to continue to go for, like people that actually care about cosmetic stuff like that. After they've got all the loot on that boss's table, and they don't need anything else from the boss, they can still go to the raid in hopes to maybe get this really cool, get Illidan's bunny slippers, because they really want Illidan's bunny slippers for some reason.
Well, it's just like those music scrolls that you can get for your garrison, that once you get that unlocked, the little music machine that you have in there, it unlocks it so they can drop from bosses, and it's not part of that loot table. So I'm hoping that when Legion comes by and they do put in the new system for transmogs, that they'll make it where like a boss might drop an item that unlocks a set, kind of like the shamans did in Soho. So there would be that to look forward to
There
if
you
they
go.
do it.
It's a cool idea.
I always thought it'd be cool when they revamp the transmog thing. I always thought it'd be a cool idea if maybe they put something on the boss, like the last boss of the expansion or something, where you get it and it can unlock the ability to transmog legendaries or something. Because a lot of people want to transmog their legendaries, but Blizzard doesn't want everyone to transmog their legendaries. So maybe it's like, okay, go raid Mythic, and when you kill the last boss, you can transmog legendaries or something. Like, I just thought that'd be a cool, like, middle ground way for Blizzard to get what they want and players to get what they want. But because that would be a cool drop for people to want to try and get, just unlock being able to transmog your warglaives finally.
Right.
And that way, not everyone has it. Just the people that are actually dedicated enough to go through, like, maybe heroic or something and kill the last boss would have it.
So we've been going for about 2 hours now. Anybody have anything else they want to say?
Mystic likes donuts.
I do.
He's not the only one.
Nope. We all love donuts. Fun fact that you guys probably didn't know about us, we love donuts.
I think that they need to make the next expansion especially impactful on the old Azeroth. That is one thing that they have to change if they want Legion to have as much of an impact as the other expansions. They have to bring in
I think Legion has to have more of an impact, really. I think this is the expansion that all eyes are on them. And I feel like this is the one that they have to really knock out of the park. Like, it has to stand out from the other expansions if they want to keep going, I think, at this
Telling
point.
you, we lose the end of Legion, Azeroth engulfed in fire, green fire, and we're on a different planet.
Yeah, I feel like this expansion is the one they have to innovate on. This is the one they don't have a choice. They have to step out of their comfort zone, and they have to go all out and take some risks and do something that people are going to talk about and stuff to get more subs to come back or new subs to come in. And if they don't do it on this expansion, I feel like WoW is in for a really bumpy ride coming the expansions afterwards. So I think this is really the all eyes are on you Blizzard kind of expansion. And I'm hoping BlizzCon kind of drives it home that Blizzard knows this. Because if BlizzCon, they just sort of throw in all these mediocre stuff, then it will probably hurt in the long run for the expansion. So it's kind of like on the edge of your seat, wait to see sort of thing on how this new expansion is going to go.
Anything else, Table?
Before we flip you?
I want donuts now.
Zen, you have anything you want to add? Doesn't be related to any of the topics we talked about today. Just be a normal statement about Blizzard or what you like to see or something.
Or what you like for dinner?
I just really hope that Blizzard doesn't spread itself too thin with resources. Like, it seems like based on their recruitment that they were getting people out of World of Warcraft and into other games that they're trying to push. But I'm just hopeful that they don't spread themselves too thin, where they're not the jack of all trades. They're still good at what they do. And I hope that I'm really hopeful for the future. I mean, I skipped 2 expansions. I didn't play for years, and I'm back. And I'm really hopeful to continue to play and want to play. Not that I'm at that point at this moment, but I just want this is part of my life. And I don't have a ton of free time, and I really hope that they respect that and understand that and they make another expansion that's really worth playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. On the note of spreading themselves too thin, I really hope they kind of dial it back on working ahead. It's like just a little bit. I understand the need to work ahead, but I kind of feel like they're working too far ahead sometimes.
Right. Mike, anything from you?
Just the points I interjected earlier. I do hope Blizzard does figure it out. I hope that this expansion coming out is their return to form on making a good, solid MMO, and that they fix a lot of their mistakes. Like, I hope they're listening to players, like they say they are, because what they've said with this expansion is that they've listened to players' outcries, and they've continually said that they're taking a lot of that into account with this expansion, all that. Like, they've heard us, and so they're taking account. So I'm hoping that it's actually true and it actually shows come this expansion, because I really want it to do well, not just because it's like a return to Burning Crusade, but I do want it to do well. I want Blizzard, World of Warcraft to continue on. Obviously, Blizzard's going to continue on with or without World of Warcraft because they have other games. But I really want to see World of Warcraft continue on, and I don't want to stop playing it, but I will if it gets too unfun. But it does look, what I've seen does look promising, especially for the PvP side of things. There's a lot of promise, but obviously it's like anything else. We got to wait for it to actually come out to see if they deliver on all those promises. So I'm really kind of nervous about what's going to happen at BlizzCon, and nervous about what's going to happen when the beta does come out and all that, and how much time they're actually going to spend on the beta, planning to spend in the beta. And I hope they don't rush it. And I think they're going to announce that beta's open a little bit after BlizzCon, especially since they said it's supposed to be open before the end of the year. But they're getting kind of close to that right now. But I don't want them to rush it too much. I understand they don't want the huge gap like they had before, but it's I would rather wait for an outstanding game than rush into a mediocre game. So I understand they want to get stuff out faster, but if they sacrifice quality to get stuff out faster, I don't want them to do that. I'd rather just wait, personally. So,
right.
Like, if they need to not work so far ahead in order to put more focus on what they're currently doing and bring more quality to what they're currently doing, I would rather them do that than be 5 expansions ahead. So I'm really hoping that this expansion is what WoW needs to revive itself, as well as the movie. I hope the movie's good. So.
Alrighty, and with that, thank you everyone for watching. Zyn, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hopefully
come back anytime.
Sometime. Table, again, thank you for being here again. Hopefully,
it's always fun.
Continue to come back. And this is like really the first podcast that you've actually had people with really drastic different ideas, and the debating was actually fun. I thoroughly did enjoy that. That was my goal all along with this podcast, was to have different points of view and having a respectful debate going back and forth, and walking away not hating each other.
That is important since we do have a debate tonight.
Right? Mike,
me,
thank you for actually showing up.
And me and Mystic are talking about doing another podcast too, just for my channel. It's not going to be WoW related, so
I think Table and myself are talking about one too. So many different projects.
Yeah, I can be a guest on whatever you guys want. If I'm available, I'll do it.
Cool.
Well, I guess I could mention it here. Me and Mystic are talking about one Friday a month getting together for a podcast where we do nothing but just BS. So if you're interested in that, like not WoW related, just BS on whatever topic we want. So if you're into something like that, you guys can join us.
First topic: why more games don't have more jiggle physics?
Oh boy.
But with that, Table, say goodbye.
See ya.
Mike, say goodbye.
Latest suckers.
Zin, say goodbye.
Till next time.
Later, everybody.
Bye bye.